This is the Vaguely Nerdy Podcast, where every week this brother and sister duo gets together to talk about box office, latest film, and TV scoops. Also, we talk about our latest movie or show review and what we're looking into next. We're your hosts, Cheryl
and Jay. Okay, so every episode we start off doing some movie trivia based on, around, or about,
similar to,
in relation to the film that we're reviewing this week, which is They Cloned Tyrone. So I am going to ask Cheryl some movie trivia.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
I think so. Probably not. Go ahead.
Okay. This is a film that was a modern take on early blaxploitation films.
Okay.
It stars Wesley Snipes, and Jamie Foxx credits Wesley Snipes' performance as one of his inspirations to pursue acting.
Wesley Snipes?
It's a modern spin on blaxploitation film.
With Wesley Snipes?
Starring Wesley Snipes. And it's a movie that you have seen before. It is referenced quite often, especially in other black films.
Wesley Snipes?
Mm-hmm.
It's a blaxploitation film.
Mm-hmm. It's a modern blaxploitation film.
And I've seen it.
We're talking modern 90s.
Okay.
And blaxploitation ended in
you
like the
know
70s.
that I've seen it. Were you with me when I seen it?
I'm pretty sure you have seen this movie.
Wesley.
Everybody has seen this movie.
Well, it ain't Blade, and it's not Dolomite.
Iconic Wesley Snipes.
Oh, Tu Wan Fu? That's not blaxploitation.
No. That is not blaxploitation.
I don't know. As soon as I said it, I was like, wrong answer.
Exploitation of a different group.
Okay.
Think of Wesley Snipes' roles. I'm
thinking of like where he played Nino Brown.
Yes, that would be it.
Oh, okay. Wait, what's the name of that movie?
New Jack City.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right.
Jamie Foxx cites Wesley Snipes' depiction of the drug dealer Nino Brown as one of his inspirations to pursue acting. The character's catchy quotes in the movie set him apart, and Foxx once spent most of his time on a Jay Leno interview reciting iconic lines spoken by the crime boss.
Oh, okay. I can see it. Jamie Foxx is good at impersonating other people too.
Yeah.
So I got it right, guys. Woohoo!
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's get into the episode. Welcome, fellow movie buffs. I'm Jay.
I'm Cheryl.
Listen in as we break down movie and TV shows, tell you what's in the plot, and hear if we think you should have watched it when you had the chance.
Dun, dun, dun. All right. So for this week's episode, before we get into our movie review, we got some box office news. So some movies have been doing good. Some have been doing not so good.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of new trailers came out this week. Movie delays because the studios don't want to pay the writers and the actors. And then some news about one of my favorite movies of all time, Heat. And Heat 2, which me and Jared had a discussion about why this is called Heat 2, but we'll get to it when we get to it. And then before we get into our review, our last bit of news topic will be about Ahsoka, which just came out this past Tuesday.
Yep. First two episodes.
All right. So first up, box office news. We will touch first on Blue Beetle, which was our last episode.
Yes.
And when we recorded, it had only been out for one day and it was already not looking great.
Right.
Currently, it is still
not
looking great.
No.
Domestic, it's sitting at 36 million. International, 18.6 million, which gives it a total overall as of Saturday, 54.7 million. And the budget was 120.
Yeah.
I think the budget was 120. Mm-hmm. So it's typically, so as we said in a couple episodes ago, I think maybe even our first one, a movie wants to have double or 2.5 times its budget in order to be considered successful or break even. Right. Yeah. So it's not doing great. One of the excuses that, what is his name? Zazzy? Yeah, we'll just call him Zazzy. One of the WB executives, the head of WB, tried to blame part of the reason why Blue Beetle didn't do as well is because of Tropical Storm Hillary.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that Tropical Storm Hillary affected a lot of Latin communities.
Right, because it was out in California. And, people obviously should not have been going to the movies. And they're trying to say, oh, that's part of the reason. There's also another school of thought that people that were not part of the Latin community didn't connect to Blue Beetle because it heavily focuses on that culture. But I don't think that's why it's not doing well.
Yeah, the excuses have kind of been all over the place. So, number one, Tropical Storm Hillary did not have any effect on this movie's box office.
Are you sure?
There are Latin people all over the world, and Tropical Storm Hillary was not a world-ending event.
You don't think they would have got an extra 100 million if people okay.
There are Latin people all over the world.
You're
Blue
right.
Beetle is not making money internationally. It's not all on one part of the United States.
For movies, right? If they're going domestic and international, especially for superhero movies, action movies, the split will be more international versus because domestic is obviously just
blockbusters, like blockbuster films, action films, movies based on superheroes. They will all a lot more money internationally.
Right. So the fact that it's half-ish of what it is internationally that it is domestically, that's not good.
Yeah, I think this fell into the well of...
We've seen it already?
Well, it's part of the movie. They've already confirmed several times that the movie is part of the DCEU.
Now, I thought... No, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought James Gunn, head of DC Studios now, said that Blue Beetle... the character was a part of his new lineup, not the movie. But everybody keeps saying the movie is part.
No.
Which one is it?
James Gunn said it's only going to be the character.
That's what I thought.
And people are...
extrapolating?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what it just means is that Blue Beetle is going to get a soft introduction into the DCU. And whenever he decides to incorporate him there... basically, it sounds like he's going to keep his past, but the movie will not count.
That's what. So I was right. People keep saying this is the first entry. I'm like, that's not. He said Superman Legacy is Blue Beetle. The character is. This movie is out because they already have finished making it.
Yeah, they'll probably reference like one part of this movie just to establish the fact that Blue Beetle is not somebody new that they're introducing, but this movie is not going to matter. I doubt we'll see any of the characters outside of Jaime Reyes in the future, if we ever see Jaime Reyes in the future. I doubt we'll see the family again, unfortunately, because the movie didn't make that much money.
Right.
And that means people didn't go see it. So there's no reason to bring everything back from the original movie if nobody saw it.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. But silver lining, or maybe a gift. Tomorrow is National Cinema Day. So today is August 26th. Sunday, August 27th, they're doing National Cinema Day. So every movie in every format is $4. And they did this last year at the same time, but I think it was $3.
Yeah.
So inflation. So hopefully Blue Beetle may get a bump because of that, but it's not the only movie out. Like Little Mermaid's getting re-released. People are you can see Oppenheimer in IMAX for $4.
Mario's coming back. They're bringing back old films.
Lady Bird, which is Greta Gerwig's previous movie. So they're like, hey, you love Barbie? Go see her other movie, Lady Bird, for $4.
Which got nominated for some Oscars.
Exactly. So what else? Something else is coming. I was like, Jurassic Park 3D.
Yes, Jurassic Park 3D.
It's going to be $4.
Which I've seen a lot of people say that they're excited because they missed Jurassic Park 3D. It hasn't been in theaters in a very, very long time.
I think it's the 30-year anniversary was just either this month or last month.
So this is going to be a lot of people's only opportunity to ever see Jurassic Park in 3D on the screen.
So Blue Beetle might get a bump, but it still has competition of old movies now and current movies.
It might get a bump because, like me and you had discussed earlier, $4 is like a third of the price of a movie ticket.
Right. Yeah.
So that means you need even more people.
You need
to
like
go
3
see it.
people to equal what one movie ticket would equal any other day.
Barbie is coming back for National Cinema Day, but Barbie is also getting IMAX showings now.
Correct.
So
correct. I don't know why
that
you
means that Blue Beetle won't be getting those IMAX screens.
Oh no.
But on a side note,
Mario, Little Mermaid, Barbie, and Oppenheimer are more worth your $4 IMAX ticket than Blue Beetle. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So not looking good for Blue Beetle. Elemental though is surprising everybody. So it's very funny. So Elemental is a Pixar film. Mm-hmm. It's in the same vein of Zootopia, where everybody's kind of separated. In Zootopia, everybody was kind of seperated by their species. Right? Mm-hmm. In Elemental, they're all separated by their element, like fire, water, earth, air. And it's a romance comedy about a water element and a fire element falling in love and trying to figure out how they're going to make their relationship work. When this movie first came out and it was getting previewed, everybody in every direction was saying this movie was a failure. It was a bomb. And I think it had one of the lowest openings. But
it could have had. I mean, the way they were talking about it, it sounded like it did.
Currently, it has grossed worldwide $459 million, which is half a billion.
Yeah, it's almost right. It's almost at the half billion mark.
This movie came out 1,000 years ago at this point.
Yeah, you're right. It's been in theaters for... I'm about to look up when Elemental came out. Hold on. But the crazy part was that it opened so low, people were calling it like the end of Pixar. Because Buzz Lightyear also didn't do that great. Mm-hmm. So they're like, oh, Pixar's over.
Yeah. And people who've been working behind the scenes at Disney have been saying that Disney is prioritizing their own like Disney animated productions
over Pixar,
and putting a lot of Pixar and other animated studio movies directly on streaming and not sending them to theaters.
Elemental came out June 16th. Juneteenth, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, it did because it came out the same weekend as
The Blackening.
Sure did.
This is the goal for movie studios as far as legs.
Like, yes.
The legs on this movie
stretched long.
Crazy. Because not only did they stretch long, but nobody saw it coming. Right. And there really hasn't been an explanation why, other than the fact that
I think it's doing really
it's just
well
a good movie.
And it's got, I think it has an A cinema score.
I think it's just a good movie. It's reviewed well, and the word of mouth is spreading really wide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got an A. It's got an A cinema score.
Yeah, the word of mouth carried this movie so really far. Yeah. 2 movies that have hit records, unsurprisingly.
Shocker, let me guess. Go ahead.
Barbie and Oppenheimer both made history this week. So Barbie made history as it's now the highest grossing movie domestically in 2023. It has beat Super Mario, which nobody thought any movie was going to beat Super Mario.
Back it up 1 second. I haven't seen Mario. I'm not going to see Mario. Mm-hmm. Everybody I've seen, or people we know personally have seen Mario, really liked it. Critics did not love it, but whatever. If kids like it, families like it, hallelujah, by all means. But the fact that it made so much was kind of even shocking to me.
Really?
So, yeah, because
I expected Mario to.
You thought Mario was to make $1 billion when it first came out?
I expected Mario to make $1 billion.
Really?
Yeah. Because
I mean, it has its own perks. Mm-hmm. It has, gaming, I know all of that, but I was just kind of like,
Mario is one of the most uniform games of all time, and it has lasted forever across multiple different platforms because of its fan base.
I actually think the new Universal Studios extension is going to have a Mario theme.
Yeah. So if anything, Mario definitely has a following that has the ability to take it where it wants to go.
And I mean, from the sound of it, it was very like kids loved it. I don't even think Margot Robbie, remember there's a whole little quote from her saying that how she sold WB Barbie was that, look, this is going to make $1 billion, but not even, she was like, you got to sell it. I got to say what I got to say.
Yeah.
And it actually still, that's crazy.
Yeah. So Barbie has hit a worldwide gross of $1.2 billion. But in order to beat Mario, it grossed a domestic, which is just within the U.S., of $581 million.
Crazy.
$500 million just in the U.S. and the rest of it outside the U.S. And we were talking about the split and how
normally it's a little wider for international, domestic, and this is kind of,
and it was 10%
split.
more in international. She made 10%. She made 10% more of the total gross internationally. But that was close.
Yeah, typically the split I think is usually like 60-40 or 30-70 sometimes in some
especially
cases.
For like Fast and Furious, it's like 30-70.
Oh yeah. So I'm curious to see what Barbie does for National Cinema Day tomorrow. Yeah. And I'm curious if Barbie is number one.
Oh, it absolutely will. Another movie that's still going strong is Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer hit a couple records. Currently has grossed worldwide $727 million. Which is also which is crazy for like
crazy. A war movie.
It's a biopic. Yeah. So it had 3 landmarks. Number one, it's the highest grossing non-Batman film for Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan has made a bunch of just films that have all of these like unique ideas that you haven't seen before, and he somehow is able to pull a lot of them off by the end of the film. And his highest grossing films, except for Oppenheimer, were Batman movies. Yep. He was the one behind the 3 Christian Bale Batman movies. The
Nolan trilogy, as they call it.
Yeah, which isn't surprising. One, it's Batman, so it's gonna make a lot of money, even if it's bad. I mean, Batman v Superman was bad, and it made a lot of money.
The last Batman with Robert Pattinson.
So good Batman. All Batman stuff makes money. Good Batman stuff makes crazy money. Right. And then you have Christopher Nolan, which is like, now you know you're gonna get a good story. Yeah. So for Oppenheimer to beat Inception, which was super good, one of Leonardo DiCaprio's best films. A lot of best films for everybody in there. And I totally forgot Cillian Murphy was in the beginning of Inception. Yep. So it's his highest grossing.
And he was also in the first Nolan Batman.
And he was Scarecrow in the first Nolan. He was Scarecrow in all 3 Nolan Batmans because he cameos.
Oh, okay. I say okay.
In the second 2.
Right.
It's also the highest grossing World War II movie, which I didn't know that there was a stat on that.
Of course.
I forgot it was a World War II movie because you never saw the war. I mean, they kind of talked about it, but the movie kind of focused on the science.
Right, and the person. War.
Yeah. So it hit that record. And it is also one of the highest grossing biopics of all time.
I wonder when they're going to put it on digital. I wonder. Because Barbie's going to digital next week.
I have no idea.
I wonder if Nolan's or Oppenheimer's Universal, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I wonder if they're like, we're gonna hold out and just let this ride out like Elemental and see how long we're gonna get.
It is a good day for a lot of movies and not such a good day for some, but I'm very interested to see how all of these movies grow even more after Sunday.
Yes, I'm very curious of what Sunday
it's basically like the movie
numbers.
Super Bowl, where all the movies are competing to rake in the most amount of cash in one day.
Some Twitter account said they should do a National Cinema Day every month, and I was like, no, they're not doing
There's not that many movies to release. At some point, you would just be seeing the same movies going back to theaters every month, and it costs to do that.
And it's also kind of like that kind of kills it being like a thing when you do it too often. So
yeah, a lot of somebody else had said, why don't they do National Cinema Day on Saturdays? And they were like, well,
it makes
Saturdays
too much money.
It makes too much money. People go to the movies on Saturdays like crazy anyway. Why discount it?
Right.
Yeah. You want to talk about our trailers that we got this week?
I'm going to go backwards on our list because you have more of the behind the scenes and knowledge about the second one.
Okay.
And the one I put on the list, you were like, what is it? So a trailer for a movie called Reptile came out. And even after watching the trailer, I have no idea why it's called that, but it's a Netflix original. And the reason why I added it to our list is because it stars Benicio del Toro,
which we love,
who I like. Yep, very much so. Justin Timberlake, who we didn't realize was still trying to act.
He made that movie In Time or Out of Time.
How old is that?
It's old.
Okay. And also Alicia Silverstone, who I don't know what the last thing she's been in either. But I was like, hey, these are like 3. Benicio del Toro, I mean, he can act. But the whole trio of them, I was like, got to be somewhat interesting for all three of them to be in the movie. But essentially, the movie is about Justin Timberlake's maybe wife or girlfriend.
Yeah,
can't tell.
She's
been murdered. And Benicio del Toro is the detective trying to figure it out. I think Alicia Silverstone is maybe either his partner or also works in the police force. Of course, nothing is as it seems. Air quotes, you can't see me. So there's a lot of like, who did it? It looks like there might have been an ex-husband, a weird friend.
It seems like the wife or girlfriend, whoever she was, had a lot of just weird associates that are questionable.
So it's one of the true detective mystery type movies. So it's a Netflix original, comes out October 6th, so they might want to start promoting that since they are not going to be able to promote it with actors because of the strike. And I don't know, it looked interesting, and those three names, I was like, what movie would those three people possibly be in? So
I never see too many ads for Netflix original movies, but they always seem to do well on their chart,
right? And so we don't really
whenever they release a new movie, whether it's always number one, advertised or not, it always goes number one on Netflix. So
we'll see. And if they ever really want to push a movie really hard, they put it in theaters for like a week, which they did with They Cloned Tyrone and Glass Onion. This is going to be at a film festival.
TIFF.
Yes, that will be a TIFF. So maybe they must have a lot of confidence if there is submitted to film festival. So October 6th, it's called Reptile. No idea why it's called that.
Hopefully it's nothing gross. The trailer had something about bite marks on her body, so hopefully it's not like some.
Maybe the killer likes to eat people. Okay, next trailer that we got this week. So we kind of talked about last week. There was a teaser for this trailer, so now we're doing teasers for trailers, which is a thing that's like not new. So let me not knock it. Let me ease up. Rebel Moon. So this is the Zack Snyder 2-part special, another Netflix original.
Yep.
Part 1 is called Child of Fire, which is coming out December 22nd. So holiday jams there. And then part 2 called The Scar Giver comes out April 19th, both on Netflix. What do you think about that first trailer? Uh-oh. Pause. Silence. And then a laugh.
I have a lot of opinions about Rebel Moon.
Okay.
So I'm not gonna go on a tangent. When I first saw the teaser, I said this looks on par with a Netflix action movie. The CGI wise, the effects. Netflix movies that have a lot of visual effects have a look.
Not Hollywood. Okay.
CGI doesn't look all the way finished in the trailer.
Okay.
Some of the things look like they're clearly on top of a screen instead of being in the screen.
So you're saying they don't have a volume at Netflix?
I don't know, because sometimes you can tell when the volume is there too.
You're right.
I just think the teaser, I think it looks like the visual effects still need some work.
We'll tweak it.
So hopefully that is the case.
According to Vanity Fair, the project has a budget of $166 million. I don't know if that's for both movies or if that's just for one.
Let's just say this. The creator has a budget of under $90 million right now.
Wait, the who?
The creator with John David Washington.
John David Washington sci-fi. Right.
And the sci-fi, the CGI in that looks leagues better than in Rebel Moon, but
there's a lot going on in this movie.
So back to the trailer. First impression of the trailer. The movie looks interesting. Number one, I do think the movie looks interesting. The movie also looks very entertaining. Looks very convoluted.
I'm going to use the word entertaining.
I will watch it, and I am optimistic about it.
Okay. You know what? I think him saying that, the director saying that it's like his version of Star Wars, he shouldn't have said that. Because now when I saw the trailer, I'm like, that looks like Star Wars. That looks like 300. That looks like, what other movie did it? Dune. It looks very Dune-like. Like all three of those movies together. Oh, Mad Max Fury Road. It looks a little bit like that. It's got a lot of like pieces of the puzzle to make this one movie.
So 2 things. I'll re-go over the synopsis really quickly for
Okay.
people who may not have heard it in our last episode, and then I'll say how I feel about it. So, I'm not going to read the synopsis from the wiki or from Zack Snyder or from Netflix because it's very convoluted and it includes a bunch of names of planets and empires and characters that we haven't seen before. The synopsis of the movie reads like the opening scroll in a Star Wars movie.
Okay.
How the scroll in the Star Wars movie is also long and convoluted and mentions a bunch of things that you don't know. But the difference is right after the scroll is gone, the movie is going to re-explain everything that was in the scroll.
Yeah.
It's gonna show you exactly what it was saying.
They were talking about.
The characters are gonna re-exposit everything that you just read.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to read the scroll to a Star Wars movie months before it comes out because everything's gonna fall out of your brain.
Correct. Especially
so the point of this movie is that there is a empire that is taking over a galaxy by force with their government in a Nazi-like fashion, which is like Star Wars.
Like
and you have a chosen person. You have a character in this movie, in the Rebel Moon franchise.
So Anakin Skywalker.
There's no Anakin Skywalker. There is a young girl played by Sophia Boutella.
Okay.
Who's named Cora. And based on the narration, the trailer is narrated by Anthony Hopkins, who plays a robot in the movie.
Oh, I didn't know he was a robot.
He plays a robot.
Okay.
In the movie. And basically, Cora is this chosen person who's been prophesized to save the galaxy from this empire. In order for her to do it, she has to go around and recruit a bunch of people with various sets of skills to fight the empire from taking over.
It's giving me Star Wars, Jared.
And keep the galaxy full of free people.
Okay.
It sounds like Star Wars. It sounds like Dune.
Sounds like
if
Final
you look
Fantasy
at
game
it,
we're playing.
If you look at it, it's shot like a mix between Star Wars and Dune. There's a lot of
and Batman versus Superman.
And Batman. The trailer has a lot. We talked about Zack Snyder's love of slow motion.
And song.
Half of the trailer is slow motion.
And song.
So half of the movie is gonna be slow motion and song.
I think I clocked maybe 4 different songs in that trailer.
So I like the trailer. The trailer was fine. No, it doesn't look like it has the world's best CGI, but it is a Netflix movie. So I'm not gonna
pick apart the CGI.
Pick that apart. It's a Netflix movie.
Makes sense.
My issue was of all the things that came out after the trailer came out.
Okay.
So after you watch the trailer, it's clearly Dune in Star Wars.
And Mad Max. Prior
to the trailer coming out, all the interviews and statements from Zack Snyder came out where he said he pitched this movie originally as a mature Star Wars film. In 2012. And they didn't pick it up.
He been holding on.
He also pitched it to WB when he was at WB. They did not want it either. So it was reworked into its own sci-fi film.
Question: do we know how long each part is?
Nothing confirmed, but I did see 2 people say both are going to clock in close to 2 hours.
Okay.
The PG-13 cuts that are going to Netflix.
There's like a 5-hour director cut.
There's going to be, I don't have confirmation of the length, but there's also going to be.
That was confirmed.
There's also going to be rated R cuts for both films too. That'll probably clock in closer to 3 hours. But
4.
Anyway, gripes I had about this movie after the trailer came out.
Okay.
1, they started interviewing the stars in the movie. Ed Skrein, who you won't know by name, but Ed Skrein played the transporter and he was the villain in the first Deadpool.
Okay.
He's been in a lot of action movies.
I'm assuming these interviews happened before the strike.
Yes. Okay. They're saving them so they have something to use for marketing after the fact.
Okay.
So Ed Skrein plays a character in the movie for Rebel Moon. I'm not sure if he's in both parts, but I know he's at least in the first part. He plays the right-hand man to the bad guy, so clearly he's going to be the bad guy in the movie. And he has been on a streak of playing villains in some of his stuff lately. But he described Rebel Moon as like Star Wars, but with violence, sex, and swearing. Okay, so
go ahead, you first.
When Zack Snyder was doing interviews way back when he was making Watchmen.
Ooh, my favorite movie not to
Tro's
like.
favorite movie,
Ooh,
which
Lord.
I like Watchmen.
A lot of people do. So I understand I'm an edge
I
case.
understand that Watchmen is a total mess. It is a mess of a film, but I like it because of the subject matter.
You are not alone.
I do like the movie. When he was doing interviews for Watchmen, Zack Snyder said, I don't have the exact quote off the top of my head, but he said something to the fact of he was never interested in like Batman and Superman comics when he was younger because they didn't have any sex or violence in them. What drew him to Watchmen was the fact that, you know, there was sex and violence.
Watchmen's DC too, right?
And Watchmen, right. Watchmen is also DC.
Right.
But the Watchmen takes place in a separate timeline than everything else DC.
Right.
And a lot of the issues that people had with the Watchmen movie, especially the creator,
the slow motion
of Watchmen, was the fact that Watchmen was originally a comic book that was written about not making fun of superhero comics, but just kind of like pointing out the hypocrisies in being a superhero in the real world. And Zack Snyder kind of took that subject matter and just made a horny action movie.
Yeah, because some of the scenes in that movie, I'm like, was this what?
Zack Snyder is good at original stuff.
Okay.
Like 300. But when he tries to...
But it had that same element.
Whenever he does an adaptation of something, which is somebody else's work...
He wants to
And this is going to be his... In Army of the Dead, let's just call Army of the Dead his adaptation of a Suicide Squad movie. Because that's what it was. That was...
The villains were the zombies.
Batman v Superman and all his DCEU entries were him channeling his best Kevin Feige. Army of the Dead is him trying to channel his best James Gunn.
Yeah.
Rebel Moon is him trying to channel his best Dave Filoni.
Dave Filoni's from Star Wars, from those who don't know.
And it just seems like I'm end up cutting a lot of this out, but...
Don't cut it out.
It just seems like he is trying to be the franchise guy like the rest of them are. But instead of being patient and building the franchise in a meaningful way,
he's just chopping it full of stuff.
He constantly tries to throw everything at the wall at the exact same time. I see that. He did it with DCEU. He tried to build the entire universe and get to Justice League as fast as he possibly could.
And that crashed and burned as fast as it came in.
And with Rebel Moon, as soon as the trailer came out, before people could finish reacting to the trailer, there was already news. He was already talking about a video game was in development.
I actually saw the video game news before I saw the trailer.
Yeah, he's developing a Rebel Moon video game that takes place after both parts of the Rebel Moon film. Which focus
on the movie to come out first?
Don't you want to focus on one thing and do that well before you do a bunch of things mediocre, like exactly what happened in the DCU?
And video games are not cheap to put out.
Video games are not cheap. One, and two,
they will dog the heck out of your video game if it is not good.
Video games based off of movies are under even more scrutiny.
Yeah,
you remember back? It was probably when PlayStation 2 was like the hot console. When movies would have video games that came out exactly at the same time the movie came out to theaters, and they were always awful,
crappy.
They were terrible.
I'm trying to think of a good one.
Captain America game was good.
Okay, I didn't play that one.
Captain America game was like the only good one, but at that point, by the time it came out, nobody liked video games based on movies, so nobody played it. I can't think
of a good one I personally have played.
But Iron Man had a game. Christian Bale's Batman Begins had a video game.
They don't need it.
The Transformers movies had games.
You're right. That I do remember.
They were all terrible. So you're already making
Harry Potter,
a video game, which is hard to make. Harry Potter was an awful game. You're also making a video game, which is hard to make. And you're making a video game based off of a movie
that nobody's seen yet.
That nobody has seen yet. Just focus on one thing and do it well. If he had focused on Man of Steel, could you imagine if he just did Man of Steel and went from Man of Steel to just do a Man of Steel 2?
Thank you.
Instead of as soon as
let me get
Man
the tag
of Steel
team
wrapped
together.
up, he's trying to storyline Justice League.
Oh my goodness. I just want my Man of Steel 2, and I'm never going to get it.
Just
never. It's done.
In summation, the trailer for Rebel Moon looks good. My expectations were,
okay, right?
Okay, my expectations were okay. Like, now my expectations are this is playing out exactly how the promotion happened before all of your movies that were terrible.
Knocked it down.
So
a
now
notch.
I'm expecting this movie to not be as good, because while I'm watching this movie and I'm seeing the issues, I'm going to be thinking, all of these issues are probably because while he was making this movie, he was probably also trying to do the video game at the same time.
And the second part, don't forget.
And the second part, or whatever else franchise crap that he's trying to squeeze out into this. Just make a movie. Just make a good movie.
One movie
and
at
reinstill the world's confidence in your directing abilities.
The Snyderverse fans love that, man. What you talking about?
Yeah, and it was like one of the lowest grossing entries in the DCEU.
Oh, we'll watch it. We got some time though. We'll see. I wonder what other news is going to come out between now and December 22nd. At least another trailer.
Probably Zack Snyder talking about how there's like
toys and what do you call it? A spinoff series.
Yeah, they'll definitely it'll have an anime. Absolutely.
Those are cheap, right?
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to movie delays.
Sad news. Well,
sad, unsurprising news.
Though.
The writer's strike and the actor's strike is still going on.
No end in sight.
The studios have said over and over again that basically they have no plans, and they want to sit down and talk to the actors and talk to the writers, but they don't want to talk about the things they're striking about. They kind of just want them to kumbaya and get over it.
The latest news seemed like they talked at the writers, but not.
And the writers keep leaving the room because they're not hearing the things they want to hear.
Right. So basically nothing new.
So instead of movie studios coming to their senses and just paying the writers and actors what they are owed and what they deserve for the work that they contribute to the films, the studios are like, actually, we'll just waste even more money pushing these films back, even if we've already started rolling out the promo.
Or hire firms to make us not look bad. That's the latest.
Yes, that too. Mm-hmm. So a lot of movies have been delayed into 2024. Some movies that were supposed to come out this year. I'm pretty sure this might just be a regular segment in coming episodes. They're going to keep pushing movies back the longer the strike goes on.
Right. And now we're getting into movies that are...
We're starting to see movies get pushed back that have been way past finished and ready to go to screening.
Right.
Starting with number 1, Dune 2. So Dune 2 has now been moved to March 15th. You have it listed here now with a bunch of other movies. Do you know what other movies are coming out?
Snow White, the live action Snow White with
Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler.
Correct. That is coming out. Supposed to come out in March. The Quiet Place prequel is also
with
supposed
Lupita
to.
Nyong'o?
Yep, that's supposed to come out in March. Although I don't think that started yet. So all the movies that are currently planned for March, so not just that same day as Dune, but March in general.
Okay.
The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. I didn't know. I don't know.
No, haven't seen any promo.
But it sounds like something that would be popular.
Okay.
Kung Fu Panda 4.
Okay.
A Quiet Place Day 1. I just mentioned that one.
Okay.
Now Dune 2.
Okay.
Mufasa. The Lion
Yes,
King.
We knew that was coming out.
Snow White.
Okay.
Mickey 17.
That's the Bong Joon-ho movie.
With Robert Pattinson.
Okay.
And the Ghostbusters sequel. With Paul Rudd and that whole gang. All of these movies are now currently set for March.
Wow.
And if anybody learned anything, which it sounds like nobody did, having movies come out back to back to back to back.
It's exciting for moviegoers.
Oh, we love it.
Yeah.
I personally love it. But
fiscally,
everybody ain't us.
It's
okay,
the stupidest thing you could do.
Because everybody doesn't go see every movie every weekend. Like, we love going to the movies. That's why we started this podcast. But a normal moviegoer, they're going to pick one of these movies this month that they like, and everything else they're going to say, I'm going to wait for streaming.
Yeah.
For instance, Kung Fu Panda is a kid's movie, clearly. If you and your family are interested in going to see Kung Fu Panda, are you really going to go see A Quiet Place the same weekend? Yeah,
because adults like adult movies, and adults that have kids have to take their kids to go see the kids' movies.
And if there's
what are you gonna do? Are you gonna drop your kid off and go back out to the movie theater and see Dune 2? Or
I think a lot. And what's crazy about the first Dune, it came out on HBO Max because it was still the pandemic.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still a pandemic now,
and it made a crazy amount of money.
It did, but Dune fanatics are upset because they're like, WB is screwing over Dune again because the first one came out during the pandemic and they just released it the same day and it didn't get the shine it deserved.
It doesn't seem like the first movie suffered anything.
And the second one now is getting pushed to a month that has 12,000 other movies coming out the same month. It's just like, nobody learned from this past summer when we had a movie literally almost every weekend for like 6 weeks straight. And not little movies, like major movies.
I don't think it makes financial sense to move Dune. But no. I do think they moved Dune to March 15th as a notice to every other movie coming out saying,
I don't know
balls
if that's
in y'all
gonna
court,
work.
y'all should move.
But I will say this about all the movies that are coming out that are currently scheduled. Now, mind you, some of the stuff could move.
They're not advertised at all.
Well, they're all a little. I don't know what Fall Guy even is about. Like Kung Fu Panda's a kids movie. Snow Winter. Never mind. I take that back. I was gonna say maybe they're all kind of different movies. They're not. Snow White, Ghostbusters, Kung Fu Panda are all kids movies.
They're all kids movies.
Quiet Place and Dune. I feel like those audiences overlap. Mm-hmm. Mufasa, kids movie.
It's a family movie.
Family movie. Mickey 17.
Definitely sounds
movie.
like it's gonna be an adult movie.
So it's just, you know what? Good for us. Bad for the movie budgets.
Yeah. They just had an Empire magazine spread.
Full spread.
That came out the day after they decided to move the movie back.
They had one cover for the protagonist and one cover for the antagonist. And it literally, it's wasted because it doesn't come out for.
And it just shows that
5 more months at this point.
It shows that they might have jumped the gun by pushing it back because you clearly had a full rollout planned.
Yeah, and Dune
didn't even have time to cancel that before you moved.
Dune has a following of people. Like if you watch the first one and you're excited about the next one, you knew when it came out you were going to go see it. On top of that, not all of the actors, but a lot of the actors in Dune have their own like fan bases that were going to go support that movie.
Dune doesn't have any nobodies in it.
Exactly.
Dune has people who are booked and busy quite often.
Timothy,
Rebecca,
Pew Pew,
Javier Bardem,
Oscar
Isaac.
Is he dead in this one?
He probably will show up in like a flashback or something.
Cool. What's his name? Elvis. Elvis is in this movie, y'all.
Oh, Austin Butler.
Austin Butler's in this. Christopher Walken,
Léa Seydoux, who doesn't have to work at all but chooses to for some reason.
Her whole backstory is so fascinating to me. And a Skarsgård.
The Skarsgård.
The Skarsgård's in there. Yeah. So it's like you have
Alexander Skarsgård.
It's literally, it's not like it's almost
even Batista, which is strange to say, but Batista is somebody who is constantly working.
Yes. So it's almost like a Oppenheimer thing in a sense where you got so many people in this movie. There's enough people to be like, oh, my person's
Are these people going to be available to market in March, or are they going to be working on their next thing?
Listen, did they ask that question?
Because Florence Pugh won't.
She's going to be if she's not filming something Marvel related, I would be surprised.
Having meetings or something. Yeah, the Thunderbolts is still coming out.
Thunderbolts or she's
Oscar Isaac is in Moon Knight.
Either a lot of these actors have multiple things going on at the same time, so they're not carving out their calendars like, oh, I'm just gonna do nothing but do Dune this month, and they're like, oh, we moved this 5 months. Okay, well the stuff that's 5 months still there. So what y'all gonna do?
A next movie that got pushed back, Godzilla. This is interesting. So the last movie was Godzilla versus Kong. This one is just Godzilla X Kong.
Oh, I just realized that.
The New Empire, and nobody knows really what it's about. We got a teaser. And it looks like in the teaser, it shows a
couple months.
It shows some skeletons. It shows a Godzilla skeleton and a King Kong skeleton. Oh. And in the middle, sitting on a throne in the shadows, is this like orangutan looking monster with like this staff.
Okay.
So I think people are just guessing that the premise is about this new third monster that's going to come out, that's going to unite Godzilla and Kong. To fight it.
Kind of like they did last time.
Yeah.
I like the Godzilla versus Kong.
The teaser kind of alludes that whatever this monster is very ancient and is notorious for being hard to kill or defeat. So we will see. The film moved from March 14th to April 12th, so not too much of a push.
See, they smartened up there. They're like, oh, y'all moving to March? We got to get out of here.
Yeah. So they evacuated to April. So they didn't move too much, but that was another movie delay. The film is being produced by Legendary and Warner Brothers, which are two big production houses. Legendary has been the production house for all the Godzilla films since the reboot kicked off. There's also the Monarch Legacy of Monsters show coming out on Apple TV, so I'm very interested to see how they connect. If they do, they should. At this point, if you're making a franchise and connecting them,
but you know what? That's at
the properties, the movies and shows should connect. Don't just do something off in a time that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I wonder if it will, since this is on Apple and not HBO Max. There's technically two different.
I don't know. That's very interesting. I totally glossed over that fact. Yeah, because Warner Brothers has Max, its own streaming platform. So why shop it to Apple? Yeah, interesting. Last property that got pushed back was War of Rohirrim, which is supposed to be an animated film based in the world of the Lord of the Rings.
I didn't even know.
I heard of this.
I didn't know this was a thing.
I heard this a while ago, but I just thought it was going to be one of those things that just dropped off and they stopped talking about. Oh. So this got announced I don't know if you remember, but this got announced not too long after the Rings of Power.
I don't remember that then.
It got announced as it was something that they were working on.
Speaking of, they haven't said anything about Rings of Power lately.
No, which kind of is
probably not good.
Yeah, so I expected War of the Rohirrim to kind of just fall off of the development map, and they just didn't talk about it anymore. Kind of like the Patty Jenkins Star Wars show.
Okay.
About the fighter pilots. They kind of just
they clearly
dropped it off the development map and stopped talking about it.
Working on it. It's an upcoming animated fantasy film based on Lord of the Rings. Yep. Development was announced in June 2021. Okay. It's a prequel set 183 years before the Twin Towers. Yep. I'm sorry, before the Two Towers. It stars Brian Cox. These got people in it, Jerry.
Yeah, it has actual people in it. Yeah.
Brian Cox, King of Rohirrim or Rohan, Maria Odo, who's reprising her role as Elwyn. Oh,
yeah,
it's got people in it.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's animated, so they just have to come in and do the voice work.
Right. I'm trying to see. Those are like the main two famous people. But to be honest, I think it's probably smarter for it to come out during Christmas. I don't know. Lord of the Rings and Christmas time sounds like they go together.
It depends on what else is coming out in December of next year. I'm not sure. But there's rumors that we might be getting a Star Wars film next year.
IMDb don't even go that far. They like cutting it.
There's been rumors that we might get a Star Wars film coming out in 2024.
Oh, you're right.
And Star Wars loves holiday releases.
You're right. There's supposed to be a Star Wars film every December for the next starting next year for the next 3 years, right?
And Star Wars, every time a Star Wars movie comes out, it's the holiday movie.
But I feel like those could go together. I'm not the same weekend, maybe not even the same like 2 week span, but I feel like
if it was a mainline Lord of the Rings movie, I would say that. I would say that it could compete, but I don't know if it's animated, if it would compete with the live action.
You don't think you don't think us nerds would go to both? And enough droves to make both movies successful.
I think it's been so long since a good Lord of the Rings movie because none of the Hobbit movies were good.
Yeah, you right about that.
That I don't know what the fan base will look like now.
I wonder what the animation style is too.
We also have to see that you can't just come out with just regular run of the mill hand drawn animation anymore.
It can't look like Spider-Verse.
We're in the world of Spider-Verse and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
A Spider-Verse looking Lord of the Rings.
I mean, did we expect to see a Ninja Turtles movie animated in the way it was? I feel like new animation styles are being adopted now.
Interesting. Okay, I think December's better for them though than April. We'll see. All right, second to last bit of news we have is Heat 2. So one of my favorite movies ever is the first Heat, starring Robert De Niro and Al Pacino. If you haven't seen it, what is wrong with you? Michael Mann, who directed that movie, is working on a prequel called Heat. I don't think this is the official title, but we're going to call it Heat 2 anyway. And he is currently, he says that he has talked to Adam Driver to play the character that Robert De Niro played in the original Heat, because they are working together on, or had they work together for Michael Mann's movie Ferrari, which is coming out soon.
Yeah.
I don't care who plays who. I'm gonna see this anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't care.
Here's the thing.
Give it to me now.
I would be a little bit weary about it if it wasn't the same exact director coming back.
Correct.
But this is Michael Mann who made the first Heat.
You're right.
And
yes, if some random young jock was, unless it was like Nolan or somebody, then I'll be like, sure.
Or
But
Matt Reeves.
You're right. Okay, there's some exceptions. There's some exceptions here, but some unknown director could not be like, you know what? I'm gonna make a Heat 2, and be like, sir, leave it alone.
Yeah.
But this, or madam, leave it alone. But this being directed by Michael Mann
gives me confidence.
It does give me confidence, and I'm cool with Adam Driver.
Adam Driver is a great character actor.
Although I feel like Adam Driver would fit more to the Al Pacino character than he would what's his name? Robert De Niro's character. To me, as a person who likes,
I feel like it's either or for me.
Maybe because Adam Driver with hair looks more like Al Pacino.
We don't know what he's gonna look like in the movie.
You're right, because you know what? I just lied, because in the Ferrari pictures that we've seen of Adam Driver,
much older.
He does, but he looks more like Robert De Niro in Heat.
He does in those pictures. In Ferrari, he does look like
Robert. He looks like a quote unquote younger Robert De Niro from Heat. So I just lied on.
One thing I know about Adam Driver is he's a great character actor, and that means he disappears into the character that he's playing in the films.
Yeah.
He's been in House of Gucci.
I didn't see House of Gucci.
He was in The Last Duel. We didn't see The Last Duel.
After I read the synopsis and then the spoiler, it looked like it got a little too graphic for me.
I'm just saying that he's a character actor.
Yes.
He could have played either of those roles. He could play Val Kilmer's role. He could play all three roles, and they just put him in different wigs.
Okay, don't be messing up my movie now. I have confidence
in his acting ability. I think it's gonna be good. Michael Mann has a filmography that includes Ferrari coming out, Black Hat with Christopher Hemsworth, which has been described as the most accurate depiction of a person working in security.
Okay.
And information technology in the security sector.
Oh, that came out on net.
It's a 2015 movie. It's a Netflix original. But Michael Mann also made Miami Vice. He made Collateral.
Great movie.
He made Ali.
Good movie.
He made
Heat. I love that movie. You know, Heat was on 4K on Amazon, and I missed it for like $9, and I missed it.
Really?
I'm gonna get it.
Michael Mann has a filmography. It just seems like he doesn't miss. So
I don't care who he puts in the role. I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
So, gonna get it. I'm gonna watch it.
Excited about Heat 2. Also, I don't know if we mentioned it's a prequel.
Yes, I did mention it's a prequel.
We were very confused why it's called Heat 2, but maybe that's just the production title and they'll change it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why I said I don't think it's gonna be called Heat 2 since it is a prequel. It might be called Heat, the prequel.
Our last segment, I put down, let's do our Ahsoka first impressions. So Ahsoka premiered.
Did you watch it?
I did.
Oh, you didn't say that you watched it. Okay.
I watched both episodes.
I thought we were just going to talk about mine.
Ahsoka premiered this past Tuesday. It premiered at 9 p.m.
So prime time.
On Disney Plus. A lot of people are saying that Disney is now stepping into the prime time.
Yep, because normally Disney Plus episodes premiere at midnight. So this was different. More people were up to watch it because it was 9 versus everybody more likely being asleep at 3 a.m.
And you have other shows like Succession and Game of Thrones, which go
that 9 o'clock time
on Max, like at the same time. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're trying to get people, and it helps with trending.
Because
it comes out at a time when people are up watching TV versus 3 o'clock in the morning.
Correct.
Correct. So Ahsoka premiered on Tuesday. It premiered with the first 2 episodes. The first episode was 54 minutes long. Yep. Second one was like 46 minutes long. Neither one of them felt particularly long.
No. And I actually, when I saw the time, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to watch both of these together.
I didn't.
You didn't?
I didn't watch them both together. I watched one episode one day and I watched the second episode a different day.
I ended up watching them both back to back because of how the first episode ended. I'm not gonna spoil it. I was like, oh
yeah, we're doing non-spoilers.
I knew even though what happened at the end, like I kind of knew that the next episode was gonna resolve it. But I was like, you know what? I'm curious how this works out. So I kept watching. So I watched both together.
Yeah. First impressions, really like it. I'm having a good time. I was kind of nervous going into it because I did not watch Rebels. We watched a recap, but
very good recap.
Recap says it goes over like 120 some odd hours of TV show in about 30 minutes. And it did that. So my fear was that after watching the recap, I felt like I had an understanding of what took place in Rebels.
Yep.
It was all going to fall out of my head and I wasn't going to.
Crush.
Right. Screen Crush.
Screen Crush has so if you're listening and you want to recap, Screen Crush has a really good Rebels How to Prep for Ahsoka YouTube video.
And they break down everything you need to know. Well, not even things you need to know, just everything that happened in
literally
Rebels.
Star Wars.
Yeah. So I was a little bit nervous going into it because I thought that not having watched Rebels, I wasn't going to understand the things that they referenced. I did.
Yep.
I do think it's very true when people say that the first 2 episodes are kind of like a Rebels catch up. The first 2 episodes don't spend a lot of time, but a lot of the first 2 episodes are about getting the viewer familiar with who these characters are and telling you that they already know each other and this is how they know each other.
I can see that. I think it did a good balance of recapping and getting to the story.
Yeah, like it introduces new characters and I believe this story is original.
Yes.
It introduces the original story and it sticks to it. But it definitely, they do a good job with exposition as far as explaining all the Rebel stuff in the show.
Yes, this is not a spoiler. The character in the Rebels, Ezra, is missing. If you didn't watch Rebels and you just hopped into the show, you're like, who is this dude? But they kind of explain, like, we need to go find Ezra because he is missing.
Yeah.
So
I like it. I don't feel like I'm being left behind. I definitely understand it. It's very nicely shot.
Oh,
it's kind of frustrating a little bit.
Beautiful gowns.
Because Disney uses what's called the volume, which for people who don't know what the volume is, instead of green, most movies have used green screen where they have actors acting in front of a green screen or a green environment so they can digitally add or remove things into the scene. The volume is basically a huge IMAX size screen. It's digital to where they can put the backgrounds and effects in the shot as they're filming it instead of having to do all of that work in post.
Very high definition LED video walls.
Yeah. Most prominently used by Disney in their productions. The reason I say it's frustrating is because they seem to take a lot of care with the use of the volume in Star Wars stuff that they don't share with like Marvel stuff. Because
right, even though they're under the same company.
Star Wars is shot very, very beautifully.
Like The Mandalorian looks really good.
And a lot of the stuff you would not believe is actually just on the digital volume screen that's sitting behind the actor. They're not actually in those environments, but it looks so good.
It does look good.
And Marvel stuff, it just seems like, and maybe it's because Marvel has to push out stuff a lot more often than Star Wars has to.
And I also think Marvel's worlds are a little bigger. Like, even with Ahsoka, outside of when they're like flying around, I guess, but like, I think they're trying to do, I guess you could have did like WandaVision in the volume, but you couldn't do something like, could you do like a Thor Ragnarok in the volume?
Thor Love and Thunder, there were scenes where you could tell the volume was behind them.
I'm thinking of Phase 3 and beyond.
Okay.
Phase 4 definitely has some.
I don't think the volume was around prior to Endgame.
Oh, okay. They would have benefited of doing something like Ant-Man in the volume because that's literally all.
Yeah. Yeah, the Quantum Mania was all volume.
Yes.
Yeah, especially in the quantum realm, it was all volume.
They definitely could have. So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I agree. Looks good.
Looks great.
Storyline looks good.
I like all the characters.
I like all the characters, including the villains.
I like the villains.
I thought the girl.
R.I.P. Ray Stevens.
Right, which was sad. And he's real. I like him in
He's
this.
good.
And there is a female villain, not the witch lady, but the younger girl, the apprentice.
She's there. So
I can't think of what her name is.
This is not a spoiler, but the show is about Ahsoka and her team versus 2 Inquisitors.
They're not Inquisitors, I don't think.
Well, they're not. Well, Inquisitor type.
Yes.
Bad Jedi. Let's call them Bad Jedi.
Right, because I don't think they have a name yet.
Yeah.
Because somebody pointed out how their lightsabers are orange.
Yeah.
And Inquisitors have red lightsabers.
So,
and they have them with the little
that's true.
circle. They have the circular piece with theirs.
So Ahsoka is about Ahsoka and her team.
I get they're mercenaries.
We don't know what their end game is,
right.
but Ahsoka and her team versus these, we'll just call them, because we don't know who they are, what their end goal is so far, Bad Jedi.
Yes.
And I like naughty Jedi. And you have a naughty Jedi Master and a naughty Jedi Padawan. And I like the Padawan, the female character that you're talking about.
Yes. I like her, and I thought she was going to give me like that annoying apprentice, but she kind of like, oh, you tell me to go?
All of the characters are 3-dimensional. Like, they're not just, I'm good or I'm bad. Like, Ahsoka has things that you like about her and things that you don't like about her. And the villains have things the villains are villains.
Right.
But
you're curious about what their aim is.
There's conflict there.
Right.
They're not doing it for the sake of ruling the galaxy. We don't know what they're doing it for, but they have conflict. There's internal conflict for
both sides.
Both sides.
Yes. So her character's name is Shin Hati.
Shin Hati. Okay.
And then Ray Stevens plays Balin Scroll.
Yeah. So I'm not familiar with the Rebels characters prior to the show. So far, I'm really liking everybody. There was, without spoiling it, there was at one point a character on Ahsoka's side that I thought was going to be really annoying and bitter and frustrating for the whole show. And they turned out not to be. They turned out to be much more mature than I expected them to be. Than how they were introduced.
I think I know who you're talking about.
So
tell me after.
I'll tell you after. But they subverted my expectations because I thought we were going to get the standard young character who just wants to be rebellious and annoying.
The same person.
Yeah.
Because I was like, in the first episode, I was like, they're doing this trope of like apprentice master thing where the apprentice is like, whiny.
We're supposed to hate the Padawan.
Right.
Because the Padawan is a child that's very frustrating and doesn't listen.
But the ending of the first episode, I was kind of like, oh, I'm curious. I'm curious enough to where this next episode is going to take her. And they did good with that.
It did a very good job with that. And the second episode, I'm glad they released the first 2 episodes.
Yes. Together. Yep.
Because it really it runs like one long episode.
It does.
And like a good hour and a half movie.
Because the first episode would have ended on a cliffhanger had they not.
Yes.
But you kind of know what.
And by the end of the second episode, we know where we're going, what we're doing, and we're ready to kick off.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's only 8 episodes.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if it runs into Loki or if it ends right before Loki begins.
So we're not going to do a episode review, episode breakdown every episode. What we're going to do is we're going to watch it along with everybody else. And at the end of this show, the season, we're not sure if this is going to get a season 2 or not.
Right.
But at the end of this season, we'll do a review. We can do that if there's no movie coming out that weekend. We can do the Ahsoka review and replacement for the movie.
Sounds good. Catch it if you haven't, but make sure you do a Rebels recap before. Yes,
definitely do a Rebels recap. You don't have to, but
I would.
I enjoy my experience a lot more
knowing what was going on,
who these characters are, and why their relationship was what it was.
Right. And if you haven't seen any Star Wars,
if you haven't seen any Star Wars, they don't make too many references to the other movies or shows. They kind of keep it within the Rebels space.
Okay, fair enough.
You need to know who Darth Vader is,
and
you need to know who Anakin Skywalker is.
At least.
And I pretty much think so far that's it.
Sure.
And that's only because of Ahsoka
we've only
herself.
seen 2 episodes.
Right.
But anyway, if you were on the fence, definitely check it out.
And action the choreo was good. I like plenty of lightsaber battles. They didn't skip on that.
Nope.
We got to see a lot of lightsaber action, and it
Mhm.
was all good.
And the droids were cool.
And the droids
Sometimes
were very
the droids
good.
would be like, annoying next. But no, I liked all the
Yeah.
droids in this one.
Yeah. So those are our first impressions of Ahsoka. Tell us how you guys like it so far, and we will do a full review at the end of the season.
Whoop, whoop.
Okay, so next we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to jump into our review for They Cloned Tyrone. Okay, so now it's time for our movie review. This week we watched They Cloned Tyrone, which is a Netflix original film. It was released on June 14th of 2023 this year. Directed by Jewel Taylor. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Jewel Taylor? I'm not sure.
He's done screenplays for Creed 2, which was good. And Space Jam: A New Legacy, which wasn't good. So
I haven't seen either one of those.
Going into this movie, it was a toss-up. The movie They Cloned Tyrone stars Teyonah Parris, who we know from
Candyman,
WandaVision.
Love it.
And we will also know her in The Marvels.
So excited.
John Boyega, who we know from a lot of things. We know him from Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
We know him from The Woman King. We also know him from
Pacific Rim 2.
Yes, we know him from Pacific Rim 2 as well. Currently had a budget of 20 to 47 million.
Okay, so I was trying to do my research.
Okay.
And several sources said both. So some said 20, some said 47. Something tells me this might be more of a 47 just based on the actors that are in the movie.
Absolutely.
Like, even if they were only like, I don't know, Jamie at least pulling like 10.
You think they had to pay John Boyega per clone?
Maybe.
Has a runtime of 2 hours and 2 minutes. Current box office numbers, there aren't any.
Nope.
This movie was released in theaters for a week, but no official numbers yet. It did top the Netflix chart when it was released, and it came out at number 1.
Yep. So Glass Onion, basically, where they released Glass Onion for theaters in a week and then released it on Netflix the week later. And they typically do that so that the movie can be eligible for awards.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Budget and box office being unknown is not surprising when you take into effect this is a Netflix movie.
Right.
And for anybody that doesn't know, streaming platforms are notorious for being very funny with the numbers.
A little secretive.
The books smell a little fudged. So
but we're going to claim that
we're not sure how much this movie made. Mm-hmm. We're not sure how much this movie cost to make. But it did get reviewed pretty well. Didn't get a cinema score because it didn't go to cinemas. It didn't have a wide enough release that it was pulled by cinema scores. But it received a 94% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and 100% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Now, I put this little note in parentheses because Rotten Tomatoes, in order to leave a review, somehow I've never let a Rotten Tomato score, but they do some sort of verification, I guess, to make sure these are not just bots. Mm-hmm. So for They Cloned Tyrone, they put a little thing that says the 100% score is based on less than 50 verified reviews. So there's not a lot of verified reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, but of those reviews, it's 100%.
What we do know with Rotten Tomatoes is that if both sides like the movie, then the movie is probably good.
Probably.
If one side likes the movie, it depends on which side liked the movie. Did the critics like the movie or did the audience like the movie?
Mario is a very good example.
Of that. So those are all the cold hard facts about They Cloned Tyrone. Let's get into some opinion. And do you want to summarize the plot or do you want me to?
I'm going to summarize the plot, but as always, no spoilers, then spoilers.
Yes, we're going to do no spoilers first.
So, and this, when I say summarize the plot, this is my interpretation. Mm-hmm. This is not me official. If it's not the official summarized version of the plot, charges in my head, not my heart. Or go on Wikipedia. So the movie is basically about 3 people. Fontaine, who's played by John Boyega, who is a drug dealer. Mm-hmm. Jamie Foxx, who plays a pimp called Slick Charles. Yes, Slick Charles. And Teyonah Parris' character, Yo-Yo, who is a prostitute. Mm-hmm. And they, through happenstance, get to run into, they don't really happenstance run into each other. They're all kind of connected.
Yeah.
A little bit. They run into a conspiracy that's going on in their neighborhood called the Glen. And they kind of band together and become a team to figure out A, what the heck is going on, and then B, to take this conspiracy that's going on down.
Right.
And I guess it's probably good to highlight that their neighborhood is a black neighborhood, and the conspiracy that's being run is by a white, I don't think it's a government organization.
It seems like a private organization.
It seems like some shiesty private billionaire organization, unsanctioned junk going on. But basically they're doing some funny business with the Glen, the neighborhood that the three characters are from.
Yeah, and the three characters are trying to uncover the mystery.
Right. And there's the cool thing about the movie is, and one of my notes was, I don't know when it's taking place.
Yeah.
Because they're using flip phones.
It's one of my very favorite words that I don't get to use very often.
Bitcoin?
No, it's an anachronism.
Uncle what?
The Matrix.
Oh, when does the Matrix take place?
Exactly. It reminds me of, that's why my favorite words I don't get to use very often, because I only get to use it with the Matrix.
Okay.
But it's an anachronism, which is when there are so many elements from different time periods that you can't exactly tell when the movie is taking place. So like the Matrix had like a bunch of old tech, but it was supposed to be in present day, and they were still using payphones.
Right. They were using payphones. But when they were in the real world, it looked a little more current day, but current day of that time of when the movie came out. So that's I don't think they give you a year.
Those are one of my notes. It's like, oh, this is an anachronism because Jamie Foxx's character does not look like he belongs in the same time period as John Boyega's.
None of them. Maybe Teyonah Parris' character Yo-Yo look like she may be from current time, but she mentions blockchain.
That completely
girl,
threw me off.
blockchain is recent.
Because I was like, oh, okay, this takes place in the 70s. She said blockchain. I said, they weren't that close to blockchain then.
Right. And the neighborhood, like the corner store looks like a corner store from like now. It doesn't look like a corner store from like, I mean, I don't know. If I went to a corner store today, it would probably look like the corner stores we went to get the little
But it's also in Detroit. So I guess you got to take location into account.
Is it in Detroit? I don't think
it's in some part of Illinois.
How do you know that?
Because
remember when they
there's a certain part where there's a news report, and the news report is saying we're outside of blah 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 and so, and then they also jump to different places as well.
Okay,
so I think it mainly takes place in some city in Illinois.
Okay, we'll go with that. But I do like the fact that there's not like a time period in this movie. I like that all the acting is good, even from the main three, the side characters, the couple of characters that show up twice, the couple of characters that only show up once. I liked all of the acting, and I especially like how well the three of them, John Boyega, Jamie Foxx, and Teyonah Parris meshed together, like how they bounce off each other. And Jamie Foxx was hilarious the first scene he was in.
Absolutely.
I was like, because you were like, oh, that first 30 minutes, and I was like, oh, I was a little nervous, but I don't know. I didn't like time it. I didn't see where I was in the movie to know when the 30 minutes was over. But as soon as Jamie Foxx phoned up and he said some line about orange juice or something, I started cracking up.
So, that was the plot. Actors and actresses who did and didn't do a good job. I don't have any didn'ts.
I don't have any.
I think everybody did a good job.
Yeah, there wasn't a character. I'm trying to think. Was there a character that I was like, you didn't really need, or somebody that was kind of? No, I feel like everybody fit into whatever, even if it was a minor role. Everybody fit.
I have one who I don't have them down as didn't do a good job, but just seemed a little off. But I'll save it because it's a spoiler.
Okay.
Who I liked the most? Teyonah Parris.
I did too.
I put down Teyonah Parris saved this movie only because I didn't have when I was making the notes, I
Okay.
just didn't have a better way to phrase it.
Okay.
This movie didn't need saving. This was a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Teyonah Parris carried it. Is what
Okay.
She really, like, everybody did a great job. Everybody contributed something really good to this movie. Teyonah Parris did the heavy lifting.
There is a scene later, and I don't know if I put it in my notes, so I'll try to make sure I mention it, where I was like, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But yeah, I would agree. Favorite, the three of them together, I think all were, I know that's like, that's
cast
cheating.
was great.
That's cheating. But all of them together were good. But there was one side character, I don't think this is a spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
One of the prostitutes.
Biddy.
Was that
with
in the pink
hair?
Listen, I was
love Biddy.
I like her. Like, and they used her just enough in the movie. And I was like, she good. That's why it's like all this, even the side characters were good.
What I loved in this movie was that everybody was somebody that I recognized either growing up.
Okay.
Like just growing up in a black neighborhood, being black.
Okay.
There
like
was, these characters were very representative of actual real life people. There was never a character or a point in the movie outside of the things that happen in the plot that make the movie what it is.
Yeah.
None of them took me out of the movie. Right. And there was never a moment or a character that I was like, nobody would say that or nobody would act like that.
Yeah, or that's
they were
too
saying
extra.
a lot of things that I would say if I was in a situation like this.
Yeah.
How I would act, you know. And I really like that.
Yeah, I have a note. I have a note that says Jamie and Teyonah acting like black people would.
Yeah.
There's one particular, and we'll get to it in spoiler. There's one, as the story progresses a little bit, Fontaine is doing something, and then Yo-Yo and Slick are doing something else. And I was like, they're acting just like some Negroes would. And this is freaking hilarious.
Snooping around and getting into stuff.
Right.
So that's the plot. Those are the characters. Let's go ahead and get into spoilers so that we can go over our notes. So 3, 2, 1, we are in spoiler territory.
Turn around if you don't want us to spoil the movie. The last thing I'll say before we get to spoilers is it jumped into the plot quick enough for me. And it's
in retrospect for me too.
And it's a very good, like, just in general mystery movie. Like
sci-fi.
Yeah. If you want just like a really good like sci-fi mystery, what's going on, the layers of like the black culture and everything on top of it makes it even better. But just as a general, like, good plot, good characters, good storyline, good, like, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Good, like, I might have guessed it, or you haven't completely guessed it. All that's in there. So I wanted to put that out before you cut us off, because we about to spoil this movie.
Yeah. And to that, one of my notes was that if Jordan Peele made a comedy, it would be this movie.
Yeah. When I looked up some of the stuff after, kind of like other people's reviews and reactions, Jordan Peele was mentioning a couple of times.
So we are in spoiler territory. Do you want to do this? You want to say the spoiler, or you want me to do the spoiler?
I can do it.
Okay.
So the biggest spoiler of the movie is that the main scientist behind all of this is the original Fontaine,
which is John Boyega,
which is played by John Boyega.
John Boyega plays multiple characters in this movie.
Right. So he's one of the people that gets cloned, that's getting cloned over and over in the movie. And he figures that out as the movie progresses. But he's not like the head honcho of the operation, but he's the head scientist, is John Boyega's character, which is like, what? Right. I was not, because in the scene, he's getting like dragged by a clone who's also a clone of him, who's an assassin of some sort, who's been programmed. Well, they all been programmed. Drags him into this office, and then we are, set up shot to be like, oh, we about to get revealed to whoever's doing whatever. And it's him.
It's just older.
It's an old version of him.
Yeah.
And then the other big spoiler of the plot is that there's no Tyrone in this movie until the last 60 seconds.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I was like, so at one point I was like, oh, so Tyrone must be Fontaine's like first name, if maybe Fontaine's his last name. Because where the heck is Tyrone at?
Yeah.
I ain't nobody's referring to a Tyrone, but Tyrone is actually a clone of Fontaine in a different city that has the same issue going on, or where there's the same secret organization is cloning folks and putting them out into the world. The ghettos, basically, that scientists Fontaine created on purpose.
Yeah, so the reason behind the cloning experiments was that the overall, while John Boyega plays the original Fontaine, who's the scientist who created the cloning program.
Oh, we'll call him Old Fontaine.
Right. The organization itself is run by white people.
Right.
And the reason they're doing the cloning is because they want to make the world peaceful. And their philosophy on making the world peaceful is that if we keep black people happy and complacent, there will be more peace
in these
because
certain neighborhoods.
Black people wouldn't be so in conflict with white people because we would have forgotten and been complacent about all the wrongdoings.
Right. And he also mentions other neighborhoods. He mentioned the other neighborhood, Chinatown. Yes. So they're not just, it seems like they weren't just doing it with black people. They're doing this with other ethnic groups.
White people are doing this with every ethnic
to keep
group.
us all in like these little neighborhoods so that we don't, basically, so there's no like scrawl of us into the white people's neighborhoods.
Also, they're doing it because the grand plan is to create an entire world of biracial people.
Assimilate. What was the line he said? Basically, he wants everybody to assimilate. Yeah. Into one thing.
So they want to create basically an entire race of just over generations of time. They want to create an entire race of just
the same thing.
Melting pot humans.
Yeah.
Well, nobody's black, nobody's white. You're just a human and you encompass all races.
Yeah.
And that's what will make the world peaceful.
Some people interpret it as he was trying to make everybody white, like over time. I was like, no. I don't think that's what it was. He wanted, because he said it's not enough for people to
think alike. They have to be
alike. So they literally over generations wanted to have everybody be the same. Right.
Person.
So that's like the overarching plot. And I didn't guess it. Like sometimes you get to these mystery movies, you're like, oh, like as the movie was going, I was like, now how is this going? I thought one of them were going to die. Because they always kill off good characters in movies. I thought one of them was going to die, but I was still kind of like, but how is this going to end? Like, I'm not sure. So it's good when you can't guess the ending of a movie.
Yeah. Another spoiler, we're introduced to Kiefer Sutherland, who was a surprise appearance in this movie.
Listen, I watched that whole movie and was like, I know this white man. I know this voice. I don't know who this is, though.
Kiefer Sutherland plays this enforcer character who keeps the Glen the neighborhood side of the experiment in check.
Right.
So Kiefer Sutherland explains, basically, they don't clone everybody in the neighborhood.
They only clone
only certain people who are prominent figures in each hood.
Correct.
That keep the hood the exact same.
And don't make any changes.
Keep the hood from growing and becoming better. Because he felt, so for example, we find out Jamie Foxx is a clone.
Right.
Because Jamie Foxx is the hood pimp. He's the OG. He's been in the hood forever.
Right.
Everybody knows him. I guess we're supposed to assume it's in present day, but he's still talking about when the year he won the Players Ball.
Right.
When he was a young gun. They call him OG. Fontaine, who is John Boyega's character, is the drug dealer. He's a prominent figure in the neighborhood because he keeps the hood. He keeps providing the drugs to the people in the hood to keep them complacent and keep them where they are.
Right.
So they only clone prominent figures who maintain the status quo of what a hood is.
And Fontaine says that to one of the other drug dealers. He was like, I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, we keep this neighborhood bad enough. Like, we making this neighborhood bad. The least we can do when they decide they want to save the neighborhood and overtake the organization, like, the least we could do is look out for these grandmas and kids and women out here because we treated this neighborhood like trash all this time.
They also cloned David Alan Grier. He was one of the clones.
He was the preacher in the church.
David Alan Grier played the neighborhood church preacher, who is a prominent figure in a hood.
And what was funny about that scene was how they were, I mean, won't be surprised how the black church was being used to like feed the whole, oh, you're fine here, you're happy here. Like, I think he said something
need when you need answers is to go to church. And when you go to church, they give you the happy gas, and that makes you complacent. Happy juice.
They were, okay, we'll get to that part. But there was a part where David Alan Grier's character says, your son got shot by somebody or ran over by somebody. Don't complain. It's okay.
It's okay.
I was like, what? That's not, I think Yo-Yo looks around like.
Yo-Yo is always the first to catch the organization, which they don't name.
Yeah, I don't think they name.
The organization uses many methods to keep people complacent in the hood,
hilarious,
and to continue experimenting.
What do you call it? It was ironic.
So things that, if you're a black person, you're going to have come across this thing at some point in your life if you don't steal. So they would put mind control chemicals in perm.
The chicken.
And perm mix.
Yep. Relaxer mix.
Mm-hmm. They would put the chemicals in chicken. Fried chicken. Specifically spicy fried chicken.
I think it was both. I think both varieties were available.
And the communion juice.
The grape drink for communion.
At church, and just grape drink in general.
And the thing was empty. I was like, now how did y'all pour this whole 64-ounce fluid ounce of juice into these little cups? But it was gone.
And they put the chemicals in cocaine.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a scene where Jamie Foxx takes some coke because he thinks it's cocaine.
Yeah, now I thought they were using that in the chicken. And he just thought it was cocaine and was trying to take it. No. But maybe it could be both.
Yeah.
Also the music. Don't forget.
The music.
The Thriller music. He was like, it's like a Thriller video.
Yeah. The music. They didn't really explain what they did in the music, but they did something with the airwaves that when they would play certain songs,
we would fight.
It would control black people's emotions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And their thoughts.
Because when there was a scene where they were in a car and playing some song, and Jamie Foxx was like, every time they played the song, he either got sleepy or sad or something. He wanted Fontaine to turn the song off. Because he was like, every time I hear this song, I always get sleepy. And I think maybe Yo-Yo yawned or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, the mind control was in the food, black people, fried chicken, grape drink, music, and relaxer. I just thought the fact that they picked those four.
Because if you're a black person, you've come across those things all the time, or you have at one point in your life. You've had either
some KFC, some Popeyes, some churches.
You've had some fast food chicken.
You had some fast food fried chicken.
You've tried to curl or straighten your hair.
You definitely had a just
product.
For me experience, for sure.
You love grape drink.
Listen,
if you're black, and you've been to church.
I literally had some grape Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah. I had grape Kool-Aid with you.
It was so good.
We both had grape Kool-Aid and fried chicken.
Which side?
Yeah.
2 sides. Yeah, so that was for right, and you've been in a black church.
Yeah.
So the pick, like, it was just so spot on of like picking the different places they could put stuff.
Yeah.
To do mind control.
So how the movie ends, of course, the heroes are 3 heroes: Jamie Foxx, Teyonah Parris, and John Boyega win. They take down the Glen, the neighborhood they live in. They take down that branch of the cloning facility, and release the clones out into the world, and uncover the conspiracy and reveal to the rest of the world through the news the cloning conspiracy of cloning black people in underground facilities.
Yeah.
And then the very last scene we get, which is kind of a post-credit scene, we see another clone of John Boyega. This time in what looks like Compton, because they're playing California music.
They're in LA of some sort. They're playing somewhere in LA.
They're playing LA rap music.
They have like a Lakers. He has like a Lakers jersey or something, or poster hanging up in his house. But he's doing the exact same thing that the Fontaine character would do in the movie.
He wakes up every morning.
He wakes up.
Gets a 40. And
he works out. Gets a scratch off. Gets a 40. Pours some. loses every
because he
time.
can't win, because if he wins, he'll leave the hood and
Correct.
they'll have lost their prominent figure.
Correct. So he loses every time. He pours the homeless guy outside of the corner store a little drink.
Mm-hmm.
And then his mom, we'll get to that when we talk about like our favorite scenes and stuff. He asks his mom if she wants some food, and then he sits in his, I guess, living room or whatever. And that's like his day every day.
And that's his day. So the movie ends with we see a different another clone of John Boyega's character. Mm-hmm. And he's sitting in the house with his friends on the couch watching the news report of Fontaine and them revealing the clones to the rest of the world in the Glen. Mm-hmm. And they see a clone of John Boyega. Mm-hmm. And the friends on his couch look at him and say, "Tyrone, ain't that you?" And that's the first time we see Tyrone, is in the after credit scene of the movie.
It's literally the last, 60 seconds.
Because I guess the stinger is that
this happening like they said, it's happening everywhere.
It's like Us. It's like the ending to Us when they find out. So Us is about clones.
Oh, they were clones. Yes,
clones in underground facilities.
Right.
But they were for a different reason. That movie ended with the stinger of the clones were coming up above the world. They were going to kill their originals and take their places. And it was kind of like this Hands Across America type thing. And this movie kind of ends in the same. It kind of ends with the implication that the clones are about to start coming up and not killing people, but it's about to start revealing
the secret
that
is about to be out.
Nobody is an original person.
Yeah. It was definitely got that feeling of like, is this moment of him seeing himself on TV like this going to spark the rebellion in LA? Yeah. And is that going to spark to the other cities?
Of other fictitious neighborhoods like the Glen who are experiencing similar things. Their clones are coming up from underground. Yeah. And revealing themselves.
So it was a really just good, like, just straight up good plot, good mystery. All the intertwining of like how the mind control was happening, and then also the other little touches of like the prostitute, the pimp, and the drug dealer, and their like interactions just on those levels were also funny.
We also get a little bit of a tease that maybe there's going to be a sequel, because the three of them decide to go to Memphis because Teyonah Parris is like, maybe there's people in Memphis who could use our expertise because we know about these facilities.
Yeah. So, and I did like the fact that they all left together.
And I did like the fact that they all left together.
That was I was like, oh, they get to go together. Yeah. Like, it wasn't a happy ending, quote unquote, because you realize that these experiments are going on in other cities, but it was also kind of like a bittersweet because they all got to, the team got to go together into another city outside of the Glen.
So let's go over our bullets. Are there any bullets that you have that you want to mention?
Too many bullets, so I'm condensing some of my.
First.
Let's bounce back our bullets. Let's do that. So the scene where I said Jamie and Teyonah are acting like black people would was when they were going down to when Fontaine was poking around that house originally when they first went into the house. And he's like, oh no, I gotta find out. And Jamie and Teyonah are like, no. Nope. Negro, we need to get out of here. Like, I'm not going down
when
there.
Teyonah said, this coffee's still warm.
Right.
And Fontaine headed for the hallway. She said, we leaving, right?
Right. And then John Boyega goes to a different room. Like, no.
You're going in the wrong direction.
That was such a, like, whenever you see like a horror movie and then the people are like, oh, let's go find out what this noise is. And let's go down to the cave. And when reality, black people are like, I am getting out of here. I am going home and I'm going to buy my business. Like, I don't want no parts of this. So that was hilarious because that was like real. Like, they was trying to get out and they were like, sir, go to the door. Let's get out of here.
One of my notes, I love that Teyonah Parris' character loves Nancy Drew. And I love that meshed extremely well with her character. Right. Teyonah Parris is she's not the leader of the group, but she's the one she's like the Velma. She's the Velma of the group.
She's like the Nancy Drew.
Yeah. So she's the one who has the most curiosity and
she's also the smartest.
Has the most sense and is also the smartest because she's able to take a lot of the clues. They never get direct answers for anything. Right. They always get clues. Yes. And she's good at taking the clues and actually finding out what they actually mean. And
she was the one that after they found out what was going on and they had the encounter with Kiefer Sutherland's character, she was like, yo, like, we gotta we got to do something. What's the plan? What's the next step? And then Fontaine was like, no,
she tried to leak it to the Washington Post.
She did.
She had a file folder of
All
documents, evidence, diagrams, things that Kiefer Sutherland said would have won her the Pulitzer Prize.
She was on her journalist.
She was
her journalist bag.
She was
right
ready
there.
to leak it to the press immediately.
She was like, I'm getting this out here. But the Slick and Fontaine wasn't on it. They just went back to their normal life, and she was the only one. I was like, of course, the black woman is gonna take charge and be the one to try to save her neighborhood.
Because after both the black men realized that they weren't
originals. They got all of their feelings.
They broke down,
sulking, sitting at home doing this. I was like, are y'all
she
really
had
just
to
gonna
build
go
them
back
up? And when it didn't work, she had to still
do it on her own
and get caught and be put in danger.
Right. She put herself in danger for that. But the one, and it didn't, not until we realized that Fontaine's mama was not real.
Yes. So that's another plot point.
I didn't catch it until right before. So the first couple of times he asked his mom and she says two different things. I was like, okay, whatever. And then the very last time before he kicks in the door, I was like, oh, wait a second. I was like, either she dead or it's a robot. But it was worse than that. Yeah. It was just a tape recorder. I was like, that played responses. Of course. And then my next question was, how long has it been since you ain't seen your mama?
He doesn't know. Every day is probably a reset for him because, like he said, he was at the end of the movie. He said he was only a few days old.
Yeah. You're right.
I did have one plot hole.
I was just like, I was like, how did long have been seeing your mama okay. But yeah, that scene was crazy.
There was one plot hole where so I had told you because I started watching before you did.
30 minutes.
I said the first 30 minutes were a little slow.
Okay. I disagree.
The 30-minute mark is when they find out that there are clones.
Okay, in the basement.
In the basement.
Whatever.
The only thing that were really eventful that happened for me in the first 30 minutes was that he died. He was killed by rival gang member Isaac, who was played by Jay Alphonse.
I liked him.
He's from P-Valley.
Okay, I haven't seen P-Valley.
He's one of the main characters in P-Valley.
But I liked his character.
Oh, yeah, I liked his character.
I liked his character, though.
So he gets killed like the first 15 minutes of the movie?
Yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah. The first clone of Tyrone that we're introduced to. Yes, the first version of Fontaine that we're introduced to gets killed.
Yep.
And then at the 30-minute mark, they find out that there's actual clones. So that's why I said that I felt like the first 30 minutes were a little slow because I was very confused. They spent a lot of the first 30 minutes introducing you to everybody, but not actually telling you what the plot of the movie was.
I like that though.
Okay.
I liked it. I liked it.
The plot hole in the movie for me, though, was, are we supposed to assume this is the first time Fontaine's died? Because they already have so many clones prepared for him.
I didn't think so.
Okay, so if this is not the first time he died,
okay,
is this the first time somebody's realizing, like, I killed you? Why are you still walking around? Because Fontaine,
you're right.
Fontaine runs into Isaac, who killed him.
And he's like, you dead.
He's like, oh, you must be pulling some like magic stuff.
Right.
I clearly killed you.
In the barbershop, in the hair salon.
At that point, I was like, oh yeah, he did kill him. Wait, has
nobody killed him before?
I thought the point of cloning him was the fact that the life he lives leads him to death constantly. So they have to constantly keep clones of him.
You're right. I was going to say because what the kicker was, the first clone we're introduced to actually survived because he was walking up the street.
Yeah.
And Fontaine's like,
so he gets killed quite often, but
and then
by
the black
people?
car comes and swoops him up, and then that's just it.
Yeah.
But you're right. You do make a good point of
maybe he's just killed by different people.
But I feel like the neighborhood would know if he died.
Because the neighborhood doesn't seem that big. Everybody knows each other.
Right. Yeah. Unless they like just swap that man out whenever they like, you know what? Reset. Let's start anew.
So that was the only criticism I had, just that one plot hole, which I was like, okay, if these people keep dying, and I was curious. I was like, who kills Jamie Foxx? Is it Fontaine? Is Fontaine the one that keeps killing Jamie Foxx?
You're right. You're right. That's a good call out. My one nitpick was that the start of the third act was a little like the whole leading up to we find out the old Fontaine.
It got real undercover brotherish.
It got real. Yeah, it was like, okay, pick it up. Like, who's gonna do? Like, what's about to be the next move to get either to a resolution for either side? Yeah. Like, what are we gonna do? So that was a little slow. Also, did they ever explain? So there's a code name that kicks in that helps
Olympia Black.
Yeah, that mind controls the people, but I don't know if they ever explained that. And
they never explained what the meaning behind Olympia Black was. And I'm sure there's some type of behind the scenes production meeting.
Yeah.
Did you have another note?
Another note about question I had was, why wasn't Yo-Yo mind controlled? Is it just because, like he said, she was cheap, so they didn't think it was worth it? Because when the scene they didn't mind control.
They didn't clone her or mind control any of the prostitutes. The prostitutes were the one untouched part of the entire neighborhood.
And I kind of gathered that when he said you're cheap, so we don't really need to, because after the scene after the club, like he does the Olympia Black, and she's the only one that's like.
I think they were trying to
her own free will.
I think they were trying to illustrate the fact that there was no point in wasting time on the prostitutes, because there will always be prostitutes, I guess is what they were trying to say.
Yeah.
So they didn't put any effort towards them.
You're right.
Another note that I had, two notes. One, I knew the mama was fake.
I didn't know.
I knew she was fake after they found out that Tyrone was fake.
Oh,
because I was like, oh, this would make sense. I was like, oh, if he's fake, that means that his memories probably aren't real. Because I kind of had guessed before he did that his brother wasn't real after he found out he was a clone.
I didn't think I thought his brother was. I thought there was going to be more backstory about the brother being a clone, or not real.
And I think the only reason, Fontaine is supposed to have had a younger brother that died before the start of the film.
Right.
And I think the only reason the brother wasn't a clone is because he died before he was able to do the research.
You're right. You're right.
But the note that I had was excellent use of prostitutes.
Hilarious.
Because not only were it was very smart to have prostitutes be the hubs of information around town.
Yep.
Because of course they would know.
That was one of my favorite scenes where they were trying to coordinate between him and the rival drug dealer.
They used the prostitutes to like fake like they were having sex to just pass messages between the gangs. And I love the fact that, and they were using Biddy mostly to do it.
Yes.
And she was hilarious. But I love the fact that Biddy would add money to the price when Fontaine would tell Biddy, tell Isaac, I'm gonna pay him $10K to do this.
And somehow went up to $30K.
Biddy went back and said he'll do it for $30K. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. Yeah. Because why would she not be
out for herself?
Be out for herself.
Because
she's a prostitute.
The other two times we see her, they ask her if she's seen somebody, and she was like, I might have seen him.
She said, I might have, but I'm trying to get back into college.
No. She was like, I might have seen him. I might not have seen him. It depends. And then you have to slide her some money, and then she'd be like, oh yeah, he over there.
I had a couple favorite lines.
Okay.
One was Biddy, I ain't mean it. Don't make me shoot you out here.
Yes.
When he was trying to chase her down to find out where they took Teyonah Parris.
Yes. Yes.
Favorite scene.
Okay. I have a couple. Okay, do your couple.
Number one favorite scene. Teyonah Parris seducing the chicken man.
My favorite scene was actually right before that, where Jamie Foxx realizes it's the chicken. So they're all sitting around in the chicken spot, and everybody's cracking up. Like it's the funniest. Like eating chicken is the funniest thing on earth. Laughing. They are also eating the chicken, and they start laughing. So they laughing. And Jamie Foxx tells Fontaine, or Slick tells Fontaine, I ain't never seen you smile. Like, I ain't never seen this man smile this much in my life. And he's like, I ain't never seen. And then he's like, wait a second. Everybody in here is laughing. So then he like smacks all the chicken off of the table. He's like, it's in the chicken. And they like, what? Hilarious. There was another scene where he talks about when he the original Fontaine clone, or whatever number Fontaine clone, first comes in, they do their first interaction. He calls him a Grinch.
He does. He calls him a Grinch.
I like that he came up with the plan.
Fontaine?
No, I like
Jamie
that
Foxx.
Slick comes up with a plan to basically have Fontaine fake die.
Fake his death.
So he can get down to the underground part.
Because anytime, and they didn't really say whether or not they track him or not, but somehow they watch him to where they're able to pick him up anytime he dies.
Picks up his body and then sends out another one. So they basically faked his death so that he could go down to the bottom to bring basically the rest of the neighborhood downstairs.
The last note I had is that John Boyega, the original Fontaine, the scientist, is like an evil John Hammond from Jurassic Park.
Oh, he is our John
Hammond. When he's he's like an evil, he's trying to turn the world into like this freaky human Jurassic Park.
Yes.
So
basically,
OG original Fontaine, the scientist who started the experiments in the cloning, gives his evil guy speech, basically saying that he's not doing it because he just wants to clone people for the sake of cloning people. He's doing it because he's traumatized for the fact that his brother was killed for being black by a cop, which is a common crime.
And was just left there to die.
And he called it a marriage of convenience working with the corporation to clone people because he thought that the only way to keep little black kids or black people from dying was to just assimilate. So he was like, I identified 127 genes between.
It was more than that, right? It was like 200. It don't matter the number, but it was a lot.
He's like, I identify all the genes
over 100
that are shared between all the races of people. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna combine these genes
to make some sort of new person.
And he shows these test subjects in this test tube,
people,
that are basically
clones.
I don't know what to call them. They just mixed people.
They are different.
He has mixed people.
Definitely 5 shades of a color.
He has mixed people in these tubes, basically, ready to be introduced to who are the tubes. And he talks about the first test subjects that went awry across in different parts of this movie, mostly in locations that lead to the underground facility. There are these white people with afros.
Yep.
And Jamie Foxx makes a comment about how he can't tell what race they are because he was like, what kind of white person grows an afro? And original Fontaine talks about they originally tried to mix black people with white people in an effort to assimilate, but black hair was too stubborn. So they never meshed well because the only thing they could make were white people with afros. Which was hilarious because I was like, oh,
that's why they look so weird.
That's why they look so weird because they didn't explain why these white people have these kinky, these afros.
The first dude they meet in the lab, the manager that Yo-Yo seduced, also has an afro, and I was like, why do they got these random? Because they look white, but they have on they look like knockoff Bob Ross's back in the day.
And the reason why is because they're fake people.
Yes,
they're not real, so that's why they were white people with afros.
They look so strange, and they try to have a lineup, but it's not a good lineup.
No,
the frog ain't got no shape to it, and they real pasty.
It's like an 80s basketball edge up that they got, where there's no fade. It's just the hairline.
They look like the characters you can make on old school PlayStation NBA games.
Yes, that's what they look like. Yeah.
So not real people.
Yeah, they don't look like real people. Do you have another note?
My other favorite scene, and be my last, is when Teyonah Parris, they kidnap her because she tries to drop off her letter.
I know what you're about to say.
They kidnap her and they take her down to go get tortured, aka mind control her, by using the relaxer method. So they applying it to her. I mean, they get the roots. They getting down in her roots, getting her relaxer set, and she's trying to get out. Then she eventually settles down, and they're like, "Oh, this is too strong. We got to tweak it because she passed out too soon or whatever." And come to find out, she's faking it, and then she snatches her wig off,
reveals her braids,
and I was like, "Yes!" Because
when she took her wig off, I was like, "Now I know Teyonah Parris's hair is real. So how did they get this wig?"
Teyonah Parris in real life has bomb hair.
She has crazy hair.
Hair goes it's natural, it's thick, it's beautiful, it's lovely. But when she take off the wig in the movie, I ain't never been so happy that somebody was wearing a wig because I was like, oh man, she gonna be I thought that was gonna be the person who got sacrificed out of the 3 of them was her. But no, she's smart. Like I said, of course, the smart black woman of the movie uses a wig and snatches it off, and she's perfectly fine. I loved it.
My last note is that this movie reminds me of the Mod Squad, and I like that because I love the Mod Squad.
The Mod Squad was good
Which,
with Omar Epps, Claire Danes, and G. Ribisi. Somebody.
So I looked it up.
Okay.
Because I was like, when did the Mod Squad come out? And what I did not know is that the Mod Squad, the movie, was based on a
conspiracy theory movie.
Was based on a TV series.
Oh yeah,
which ran from 68 to 73, which was in the middle of the blaxploitation era.
Oh,
and they act and look exactly like the original Mod Squad characters.
I knew that the Mod Squad was the movie that we are familiar with, was based off a movie, but I did not know the time period. I'm sorry, it was based off the series, but I did not know that the series was during that time.
Yeah, the Mod Squad. I did not know the film was based off, because the Mod Squad came out in what, 99?
I mean, it's old, but I did know it was based on an old school TV show. For sure. That's a good movie. They don't
Mod
ever
Squad
play
came
it.
out in 99.
They don't ever play that on TV.
They don't. Well, they used to play it on like TNT or FX, but yeah, they just don't play it on TV anymore. But yeah, my note was that it reminded me of the Mod Squad.
That's a good. The three of them for sure.
Which
for
also
sure.
had Josh Brolin in it. So another MCU alum, just in random places, connected.
I mean, he is Josh Brolin, so that makes total sense.
So yeah, I was really happy.
Worth the theater. We can't just roll with it. Worth the theater, just the movie, wait for streaming, or save your time. Even though
I wish I had saw this in a movie theater.
I would have went to the movies.
I would have went to see this twice.
Even if it was in theaters for a week. I don't know if it was available here, so it might have been limited. So we might not have been able to see it in the theaters anyway. But had it been like a normal wide release, definitely would have saw it in the theaters. If you have not seen it, you need to go watch it.
Yeah, I definitely would have seen this in the theaters. I do think it's cinema, even though it wasn't we didn't see it in the theaters. I definitely think this is cinema. I'm glad I watched it.
Yes.
I was excited coming into this episode because this is the first movie we both like.
Right, because our first three, oh my gosh. Meg 2, Heart of Stone, Blue Beetle. Yeah, this is definitely better than all three of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is our best movie we watched for our podcast.
I absolutely know and understand why Jamie Foxx earned the Oscar for Ray. Even though I knew why he earned it when Ray came out.
Yeah.
But I have forgotten that that was the last time he won like a major award for acting.
He was also good. He was good. Also, that didn't sound right. He was also good in Collateral. So he's very good at playing different characters. So from Ray to Collateral to Cloned Tyrone, like all good performances.
Who would like this movie? Everyone.
Yeah.
I think everybody would like this movie.
If you like conspiracy theory, sci-fi movies, for sure. I wouldn't call it a thriller. It's more of a sci-fi conspiracy kind of flick. So yeah, if you like that, you would like this.
Who would we recommend it to? Everybody.
Yeah.
I would recommend everybody watch this movie. It's so good. I think we already did favorite line and scene.
We did several favorite lines.
Was there anything you would change? Any improvements you would make?
No, and I don't even think it was too long. At first I was like 2 hours. Because nowadays, movies that are 2 hours have not needed to be 2 hours. No. But this was a good one.
I went into it thinking, oh, this is another 2 hour movie. Why is this 2 hours? But then I was like, oh, you know what?
It was good. Even
don't mind it at all.
The beginning, like even the part where I felt like it dragged a little bit, it was only like a minute or two.
Some of the shots went on for a long time. Okay. Like, there would just be some shots where we're just looking at John Boyega. He's not doing anything.
Okay.
Like the shot where he's just sitting in the car before he's about to get killed. And maybe I just didn't understand the fact that he was sitting there. Maybe at first I didn't understand the fact that he was sitting there for so long because he knew that he was about to get into a gunfight.
Yes.
And he had to amp himself up.
Absolutely. I think when he did his rearview mirror and saw who was sitting there, he had a feeling of like, I don't know who this is, but they're going to try to get me. So that's why he got out the car ready to shoot and then got...
Yeah.
Riddled with bullets.
But I mean, no real criticisms.
No, go see
I'm adding this to the collection.
I highly recommend it. Actually makes me a little sad that it's not getting more like talked about, but it came out the same weekend as Barbenheimer.
I expect us to come back up when we start having awards conversation.
For sure.
And I think that was the whole point of them pushing out in the theaters so that they can keep it in awards conversation.
Yep.
it's got the reviews.
It definitely has the good word of mouth. I looked up the hashtag on Twitter out of curiosity after watching it because I didn't want to get spoiled before, and lots of people liked it.
Maybe not best picture, but there's definitely some best actor and best supporting.
Set design, screenplay, costuming, director.
Yeah.
Give it everything.
Give it everything. Give it all to him.
Yeah. Just all of the flowers.
So that is our review of They Cloned Tyrone. Please go watch it if you have not watched it. If you have watched it, share your thoughts with us.
And also go see Teyonah Parris in the Marvels.
And go see Teyonah Parris in the Marvels. Absolutely.
In like 2 months. So don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. Leave a review, especially if you're on Apple. Reviews help us. If you need to reach us for anything, maybe you have a movie suggestion, maybe you have a topic you want us to talk about as it relates to movies or TV shows or any nerdy news, you can email us at vaguelynerdypodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
Until next episode.
See ya.